so a couple of the things that we looked at changing, one of them was the story, how we're telling story, which again is a very core thing for BioWare. But it was really important that we try to tackle and try to innovate in that area as well. So we came up with, we didn't invent it, of course. The frame narrative has been around for a very long time, and it's used in movies and it's used in books. But in terms of an interactive frame narrative, there's not a lot of examples out there. I certainly can't think of any, but the nice thing about it is it allows us to kind of bridge a 10-year span and tell the story of this character that has evolved so radically over that time period, starting off as kind of a destitute refugee escaping the blight from Origins. And then somehow, through the course of 10 years, you know that at the end, they've become, he or she has become this kind of living legend, this myth, this champion of the city of Kirkwall, this free city-state. But it's very, very shrouded in kind of mystery. Nobody really knows how they got there. Everybody just knows about the legend that can kind of swath through enemies with ease, etc. Now, reality is very different, and the nice part is we get to ask the question of the player, who is Hawk? Who is the champion, and how did they get there? And the cool part is not only do you get to follow along in those steps, you actually get to make those decisions to determine how they became like that. So it's going to be very exciting to see that storytelling method. And then the last part was, of course, the visual style. This was, again, very much there, both within our fan feedback as well as press reviews. Origins, fantastic game, lots of great review scores, lots of awards, but certainly the graphics is one thing that always kind of kept coming up as, well, that could have been a little bit better. And sure enough, the art team took that on full stride, and they revamped the entire style. And what we get now is something, the goal was really that when you see a screenshot from Dragon Age 2, you know that it's a Dragon Age screenshot. It's very iconic, the style that's there as well, so you don't have it kind of blending into other fantasy genres or anything like that. When you see one of those screens, you know exactly it's a DA2 screen. Whether it's more action focused, I don't know if it is. Like, one of the nice things that we've added in is the combat is a lot more immediate, and I don't think it really has anything to do with Mass Effect, but more so just the feedback that we received from Origins, where it felt kind of like you're playing a bit of a chess game. You know, you sort of gave orders, and then within a second or two, they kind of shuffled into place, and they started to attack, etc. But there was a lot of tactics that you really couldn't pull off as effectively. Like if you wanted to protect one of your mages, by the time your warrior did like a shield bash, you know, the enemy was already on top of your mages because they were running after them, etc. So one of the things that we really wanted to evolve on the combat was make it immediate. So as soon as you press a button, you have immediate feedback, like there's some kind of an action there. And if you're within range, you attack. If you're not, but you're close enough, you jump into the fight and you immediately start attacking. So you didn't have a sense of trying to second guess whether you actually gave an order or not. And all the tactics are still there. So one of the nice things, if you get a chance to play it, you'll actually see like how similar it actually is to Origins in terms of the controls. It's just the only difference is that you get immediate feedback on when you actually do an action. The tactics are still there. You can pause and play. You can jump between characters. You can give them different orders. So all of that is completely there as well. We did not want to lose that. That's a core part of what Dragon Age was about. But yeah, it's just now when you do press that button or you give that command, even if you're paused and you assign all the orders to your party, then they will all execute straight away, which is a nice thing. With some of our initial announcements, we wanted to focus on the things that we had evolved. So the action style combat, the fact that it's more immediate, and as well the fact that we're developing all three platforms at the same time, as opposed to with Origins where it was led on PC and then we kind of outsourced, we ported the consoles across. And it showed, like the consoles were never really sort of at the same level. So this time around we're doing all three in-house and they're all being developed at the same time. But one of the things on the PC is I think once players get a chance to see it, we're trying to release more dev diaries to show more of this. I think they're gonna feel right at home, right? Somebody from Origins will feel exactly at home. There is still a tactical camera in there that you can zoom out. There is still ground rings that you can turn on. There is still all the damage floaties, and all the stats are there, and all the inventory is there. In fact, we probably have more depth now with Dragon Age 2, particularly in things like abilities and how you select those, than we did with Origins. So now, rather than just picking more abilities to take, which is towards the end, it kind of got a bit unwieldy, especially if you went on to DLC and expansion pack and stuff. Now you actually have the option of specializing, where you can actually increase, spend more points on the same ability to improve what it is. So if you like a particular spell, you don't feel like you have to take a different spell to get more power out of it. You can just keep investing points on it. So there's a lot more depth into how you can choose to do that. And of course, the specializations themselves are still there as well, and all the depth is there. So I think it's just a matter of once we get more content out there, particularly on the PC, hopefully those fears will kind of be put to rest. But certainly if you get a chance to play it, I think you'll realize that it'll feel straight at home. Yeah, well, I mean, there's quite a lot that is shared across the two teams in terms of what sort of things we might bring across between the games. In terms of the core designs, each franchise has very strong leads, and they know exactly what they want to go and do. What we look for is, for example, for Dragon Age 2, in particular, the conversation wheel is a great example of something that we borrowed shamelessly from Mass Effect, because it just worked. Like, people just understood how to use it. It was very clean in terms of the design for it. And then the one thing that we decided to kind of add in as well is sort of the emotion icon. And one of the key reasons for that is both in Mass Effect and in Dragon Age, it's very easy to kind of misunderstand what the character is actually going to respond like. There's no tonality to what the text is. So you had cases where you didn't mean to like flirt with a guy or whatever the case, and you're like, oh, hang on a second, I didn't mean that. And there's no sort of indicator for it. So now you have these kinds of icons that will tell you that it's kind of a romance line option versus an aggressive option. Or one of the nice things that we've done as well is we've added, depending on the followers that are with you, occasionally you'll also have an option to have them interject something in as well. So we've added that element to it. So you'll definitely be able to bring in your Dragon Age Origins save. So definitely hang on to those. The one nice thing about it is, for new players, this is a fantastic time to jump into the game. It's a brand new story, and you won't necessarily miss out, because the way that we introduce the events from Origins are done in a way that will explain what's going on in Origins. And then the story pretty much diverges out from that. The time frame advances up to 10 years away, so there's less and less connectivity to those events. But for Origins players, the really nice part is not only can you import that save game and see all that reactivity, we also have 3 pre-made world states that you can choose. So even if you already had like a game save that had all of your previous decisions, if you wanted to see some of the different choices and how they behave, you can actually choose from one of these other world save states as well, and then be able to see how those pan out. And the nice thing is, it doesn't stop here, right? We're going to have downloadable content, etc., that will also take into account other decisions. So even though there's a lot of things that won't necessarily be apparent, there's a lot of subtle stuff and things in the future as well that will start to come out of those save games.
So we'll need to keep the Dragon Age 2 save for Dragon Age 3 and beyond.
When we talk about Dragon Age 3, we should talk about whether you need to keep the Dragon Age 2 save. So for now, definitely hang on to your Origin save, though.
She fills her days making poisons and cake. Tell me you didn't try the cake.